I kind of want to, well, I'm not going to bring all that in yet. They're not ready for that. You're good.
Would you have me in my headband, please?
We're back in. So this one, I think it's, again, a good introductory painting because we're doing like a bit of a different technique. We are going to do sort of a bit of a wet and wet technique again, except instead of just painting it with water first, we're gonna play around with flavored water. We're gonna take some of that brown we got, and I'm just gonna kind of mix up a nice batch. Sometimes, like, trees can be all kinds of things. Brown and blue have an interesting relationship in that blue will sort of, like, they're opposites. So blue will sort of like neutralize brown. So I'm just gonna take like a little bit of blue and kick it in because I like my brown a little darker, if you know what I'm saying. Actually, that sounded, again, sort of, anyway, I do like more of a neutral, like that's a little better of a tree than that to me. But you can actually add yellow to it if you want to try it out. You can add some of the red to it. These will all sort of push it a little more in that direction. So it's kind of fun to play with your brown, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, so I got both my colors dialed in. I'm gonna use the old number 10 again. We're just gonna be using mostly the number 10 and then a little bit of the number 4 towards the end here from this point on. Kind of the smaller things get in the painting. You're typically the smaller and smaller things get. So I'm gonna start by
loose bits of brown. There's a pretty good guideline here as far as like the edges of the green, but I like to kind of leave that just ambiguous, and it's definitely gonna make a weird friendship once the both colors are touching. Where they're touching, there'll be a little bit of a funny friendship, funny neighbors. And out here at the edge, I'll like kind of flick it a little. You can have a lot of fun with this stuff, honestly, too. I've been lately just kind of making all sorts of little explosive bits of paint that come off the ends of, you know, naturey objects, and they'll always work out because, and I'm going right around the mushroom shape. They always work out because nature doesn't, it never does what like would make sense to us. What we think it should do is like some human business. So I think that's pretty good. I'm actually going to do a little different this time, and I'm going to kind of come a little bit, what you can see through here and here, a little bit different bit there, and then up here, let's do it like this. Kind of do a big one there, and then I'm going to just kind of fill in the bottom part. So it's going to give the shadows and all the other business in a couple of minutes, like in the video sense, probably more like in a 20 to 30 minute span, depending on whether you do the extra thing or not. And a lot of time, I'll do this, so I'm just kind of being, I'm actually more like paying attention to what I'm saying than painting. You know, becomes muscle memory after a while. I think that's kind of the zen of it. But what I was going to say is if you kind of turn your deal like this, you can always kind of get, as a right-hander, it's easier for me to paint this direction than this direction, obviously. So if I turn this, I can kind of keep the edge I'm painting into on that side. And then here, for instance, you can see my brown sort of spilled out into my green a little bit. Man, I wouldn't even worry about that. Sometimes put a little extra brown there to sort of like kind of conceal it a little or start to incorporate it. You see I'm just kind of tapping into the colors. It's more like what we were doing in the sky, or in the foliage. That's this French word. Just kidding. I mean, it is probably, but I don't actually know anything. So on this one, then we're gonna do this section. I want a little different. I want to do this while this is wet. So instead of talking this time, I'm just gonna make it happen. Darker colors are always gonna be stronger than lighter colors in sort of a tonal sense. So on a black and white filter, this is a really dark gray. This is a really light gray. The dark gray is gonna have a lot of power over the light gray. So I'm just gonna get a little bit of green, mix it in with some of that. So I have some like light green over here, I have some dark green over here, and I have some yellow there. So those three friends should do it. I'm going to just start with my dark green here, and just going to kind of drop some of this in between. Where it hits brown, I'm just going to let them talk to each other. And a lot of time, I'm kind of pat. I kind of like to, when I drop it in there, you see how it almost leaves a little lake or something. And this time, I think I'm just going to let those little lakes be lakes. It's going to do probably some cool blossomy things I can't really predict. I'm going to do like this guy. Hey, would you want to turn that up again a little bit? I'm sorry. I actually did, like, the next song was super quiet.
Like extreme.
Yeah. It was like,
I think it's like a live song.
Maybe skip the next one. That way we're not in Crazyville. I'm going to let even this stuff happen. I'm just going to shake the brush over top that. I'm going to let some of these greens just like be in weird places. I'm going to use some light. There we go. And I do have white spaces here. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of punch up the underneath. So a lot of time hit the bottom. I'm going to make it feel a little shadier. So I'm going to get some of this punchy green out of the well. That's the real deep stuff. And then when I drop that in there, it's going to kind of spread out into the other guys. And again, I'm just aiming, my method is just aiming for leftover spaces. I've really just been jumping around in the spaces. At this point, I really don't see the lines anymore. So you're just kind of playing with it, but I'm paying attention to make sure there's lighter bits and darker bits and emptier bits and fuller bits. Here I've got these two big lakes, and I am not going to fight them too hard. I'm actually going to put another couple drops of the punchy green in there, and I'm going to put some punchy yellow in there too. It's, for my taste, that's a really fun way to paint. It's a little scarier with watercolor, but when we let this dry in a fast motion, I think it should be pretty neat to see, is what I'm trying to say. And I will do a tiny bit of the old kind of swiveling it all around routine. Just play with that a little bit, be like, bloop, 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 bloop. And I'm gonna get a little weird with it and put a little green up here today. There we go, that's pretty good, cool. And I mean, mushrooms grow where it's like moist, right? Am I right? Am I right? I mean, I'm no expert on, I think we're gonna call this painting Shroomin, by the way. I think that's a pretty funny thing to do. So I'm kind of just turning it all in. I'm actually gonna leave those little white bits that are still popping out. I'm gonna let them live there. You can see there's a couple on this one, and they're pretty nice, honestly. This is a little weird of a move, but like to get a little feeling of the brown back in there, just here and there. I'm gonna get some of this basically right off the pile. It's real thick. This is the baby brush, so it's not a lot of it. It's just real thick. And I'm just gonna be like, oh, there's a little shadow bit behind the mushroom here, and then down here, I'm just gonna put a little in. It kind of connects from the bottom of the mushroom right into that, and then also a little smidge of it into here. So we're gonna feel like we see some of that. And then if you want to just take a little of that on your brush, well, it's wet. It's gonna do a couple weird things, but they'll probably work out really nicely. I'm just gonna, since that brown's been dry a second, I don't want to re-wet it, but I'm just gonna laser some little squiggles in there like that, and this will be a good start to get that kind of motion in the log. All right, well, that was a quick section, but that's really all there is to it. Just to help it not be wet forever, I'm not gonna tilt it and get rid of all of those. I'm actually gonna, I'm gonna get rid of a little more of it. I'm gonna kind of just run some of that off the bottom here and just collect it up, and then to keep some of it where it is, I'm gonna kind of spread it back out a little bit. And like, I didn't really know what was gonna happen exactly, but even now I'm kind of just like, oh, you go there a little bit more, and you go there, and cool. And then just to kind of hit it home, I'm just gonna give it some new random shapes along the top edge, so it feels a little more natural. There we go. Maybe one little guy growing out here. What am I doing here? Oh, you live there, man. You're my friend. We would go to your Franchi. And one of those lines have already gone away. We'll put those in next step. So I believe we're gonna chill again and let that run through the next thing. So I'll meet up with you on the next section, which I think we're gonna start with the mushroom. And there's really only a couple of layers to go as far as like getting to the details, and then it's really just playing with it until you get to, you're happy with your trip. You know what I mean? So cool. Maybe just a smidge more yellow for the fun of it. Just down here and a little here. I'm also gonna change my water before we go while we're watching this in slow motion, and I'm gonna leave my palette though. I think it's okay for the moment. And that's gonna do all kinds of wonderful things that I really can't even quite predict. So a little drip, a little drip, a little drip, a little drip, a drip, a touch, and a drip. Okay, having a good time. All right, get out of here, get